Over the summer, I had the privilege of being one of the few journalists to attend the media drive for the 797 horsepower Challenger Hellcat Redeye. Now, in that video, I proclaimed it to be pretty much the ultimate Challenger. However, there were times where I felt the near 800 horsepower muscle car simply had too much power to actually be used out on the streets, which is why Dodge has sent me over this model that you see behind me. This is the 485 horsepower Challenger Scat Pack Redeye. It's equipped with the naturally aspirated 6.4 liter V8 and the wide body package. So is the Scat Pack wide body kind of like the Goldilocks of the lineup with the perfect amount of power? That's what we're here to find out. So in the long history of the Dodge Challenger, we've actually only seen 3 generations. This 2019 model is literally the 12th model year of this 3rd generation. This car, remember, dates back to 1970, and Dodge really hasn't made many changes to it over the years. And take a good look at this vehicle because it is literally the last of the actual muscle cars that are available for sale here in America. Now, speaking with the design of the front end, you can see it basically looks like every other Challenger. Dodge significantly refreshed it a couple years ago. My tester being the Scat Pack wide body version does of course include this lower lip spoiler. It actually almost kind of just looks like the Hellcat Redeye that I showed you guys over the summer. Now this one also has kind of an option group that gives you projector bi-xenon headlights with the LED daytime running lights. You have an LED turn signal here. There's actually a functional air intake here that allows the engine to breathe a little bit more air along with this functional hood that also lets the engine breathe a little bit better. And really, I think this car is super striking in this indigo blue pearl exterior color, which is actually a new color for 2018. It really just sets off the lines of this thing. But from the front end, you can really tell just how wide this vehicle actually is. So looking at the side profile, you can see Dodge hasn't really changed much. It still, again, will remind you of exactly like a muscle car from the 1970s. But let's first talk about the wheel sizes. Now, Dodge offers this vehicle in several different wheel options. These are probably my favorite wheels. These are a new option that they basically included on the wide body package. These are the 20-inch Devil's Rim. These are literally the same wheels that I showed you on the Hellcat Redeye, and they really look great with the overall design. These are wrapped in 305 series tires, Pirelli P0 Summers. This is part of the $6,000 wide body package that also includes these puffed out fender flares. Remember, this model is about 3.5 inches wider to give this car a little bit more grip. Now, in terms of the actual size, they haven't changed. Wheelbase is at 116 inches long. It's 197 inches long overall, about a foot longer than the Mustang, than the Camaro. So again, that attributes to giving this car more of a traditional muscle car look and giving you a little bit more interior on the inside. The rear over here, you can see there's a cool little throwback retro fuel cap cover, but overall this vehicle definitely has that traditional muscle car look from the sides. At the rear, again, Dodge hasn't made any changes to the actual design for 2019 aside from the wide body package that also includes this nice subtle rear lip spoiler. The taillights are a full LED design, which is actually pretty nice. The exhaust, it's a really nicely integrated just dual exhaust tip. I'll let you guys hear that really quick. So if you guys want traditional V8 muscle, just make sure you head over to your local Dodge dealership. Now, being that this is a much bigger vehicle, let's take a look at the actual trunk size. That's what's another area where it sets the Challenger apart. This trunk is massive. It's 16.2 cubic feet of space. That's roughly like 5 to 8 cubic feet more than what you get in the competition. And it's actually a rather usable trunk with a pretty big opening. The seats also fold down 60-40 split. And then underneath here, there is no temporary spare tire, just a fix-a-flat kit. So the exterior of the Dodge Challenger is a pretty familiar sight, but let's hop into the interior of the Scat Pack wide body and see if Dodge has made any changes this year. You can see here's the current key fob that I've shown you before. Because this is not a Hellcat version, it doesn't have an actual red key. You just get this standard old Dodge key. If you want to activate the remote start, which it does come with, just double tap this button here. And then that 6.4 liter V8 will roar to life. If you want to shut off the engine, just double tap that button again and it'll shut off the engine for you. Now, as you approach the door handle, you can see this door handle is a very older style door handle because it's not the pull style. There is a button on the outside here. If you push that button, it'll lock the door. If you want to unlock it, there's actually a sensor. Just touch the back of the door handle here with the key fob on you, and that will unlock this very heavy door for you. Now, revealing the inside of this particular one, the last Scat Pack that I showed you was kind of more of a basic trim, a baser model. This one is equipped with the leather, with the suede. It's got that little Scat Pack emblem there on the seat, which overall the interior looks relatively okay. I mean, the seats themselves, they're very much huge. They're very, I guess, tailored to somebody who's of a wider frame for, I guess, fatter Americans. You can see the seat is only kind of like a 6-way power adjustment. The recline is actually manual, which I find a little bit to be on the cheaper side, which disappoints me. And this interior is kind of just too much black for my taste. I would definitely look into a different color combination, but the contrasting stitching is nice. You can see the steering wheel is not the same, SRT specific steering wheel you get in the Hellcat. This is just more of the, standard steering wheel. But getting into the interior of the Challenger Scat Pack, you can see settling in here, this interior definitely will remind you that this is a muscle car. I mean, it kind of feels like you're sitting in a cave. It almost feels like I'm sitting in the back because the dashboard is so long, the hood is so long. But nevertheless, when you shut this very heavy door here, it sounds okay, I guess. I mean, it's very much just a heavy door, but surprisingly, even though this vehicle is pretty old, the door sounds relatively solid. Now, when you want to start the vehicle up, just put your foot on the brake and then push this button here to fire up the engine. And then that 6.4 liter V8 will kind of just bring a smile to your face every time you start it up. And honestly, it revs pretty quick for just a push rod naturally aspirated V8. So that's really, really great. Now, looking at the rest of this interior, it hasn't changed much. And honestly, it still kind of reminds me of an American, kind of a rental car in here. It even smells like a rental car. It doesn't smell very pleasant in here, like the plastics and the leather. But the dashboard here is all soft touch. They updated this interior a few years ago with the latest 8.4-inch Uconnect head unit, which is nice. You do have heated and cooled seats, which is all controlled from this little touchscreen here. When you go to controls there, you can see you've got a heated steering wheel, you've got cooled seats in either 2 settings, which is nice. This is much better than the last Scat Pack I showed you. The gauges also haven't really changed. You do get a 180 mile per hour speedo on this particular one. The Hellcats will give you a 200 mile per hour speedo. This is kind of interchangeable. When you guys push this little button here, you can show all your different kinds of information here, whatnot, changing between your trip information, audio information, messages, screen setup, diagnostics, speed warning, all that stuff. Basically, you can also put a speedometer there. The door panel you can see is all soft touch material, same as the actual dashboard. The window is one touch express down only. It does not express up. I kind of find that to be a little bit of a cost-cutting thing. The switchgear in here, again, this is much older FCA switchgear. Your door handle is down here. It's a plastic, silver-painted plastic door handle. You have one cup holder down there, a little bit of storage. Over here you can see your headlight controls, you have a couple of dimmer switches, your trunk release right there. The steering wheel is tilt and telescoping, which is nice. You do have these metal paddle shifters which are mounted to the actual wheel, not the flat bottom suede Alcantara steering wheel that I've shown you there. My tester is missing any kind of driver assistance tech. That's where these blank buttons would go. You have your cruise control, you have some trip computer controls there, and then your volume controls are behind the steering wheel here in typical FCA fashion. When you put the vehicle into reverse, you do get a backup camera here with rear parking sensors, which is nice. You do have a trajectory, which is good. The camera itself is a little bit grainy in the resolution, but it's nice that it's on a relatively big screen. Going to the navigation source, you can see here, let's view the map. This is basically a Garmin-based navigation system. It's nothing super special, but again, Chrysler's Uconnect head units here is still one of the better systems in the business. They have added features like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is definitely nice. And then if you want, you can also rearrange any of these apps to put them down here, kind of like your smartphone. SRT mode basically goes into the drive mode selector here. You can see there's an automatic, custom, sport, and then a track mode. And then this vehicle does also have launch control. When you push this button here, it tells you the wheel must be straight, it must be in drive, blah, blah, blah. You can kind of set the actual launch control setup there. when you guys are doing that. Down here you can see the buttons haven't really changed. You have a volume knob, a tuning knob, you have well-labeled buttons here, you have dual zone automatic climate control, which is nice. This controls the 8-speed torque flight automatic transmission. I would have much preferred to show you guys the 6-speed manual. This is like a $1,200 option. It's a really good transmission. This is a ZF 8-speed. It really shifts quickly. It makes those nice burbles. We'll go into the test drive later on. There's more storage here, 2 cup holders, a nice padded armrest right here with 2 USB, another 12 volt, pretty good amount of storage in there. The glove compartment you can see is actually 2-tier storage. It's lined with felt, it's damped, it's really nice. And then I found the seats to be okay in terms of comfort. I just don't really care for how wide they are. I guess my skinny little frame just really doesn't fit well in these seats. They are a little bit more aggressively bolstered, but I do like the suede this particular one has. There is no sunroof on this car, as you can see, but there's plenty of room, and there's a reasonable back seat, which we'll hop into just in just a moment. But overall, this interior is much improved over the last Scat Pack I showed you guys in. It's just the Challenger's interior is spacious, but you kind of feel like you're sitting in like the back. There's these tiny side mirrors, and there is some some whiffs of cheapness here that you expect from FCA, but the nice infotainment system and the good seats kind of make up for it. So as I said earlier, this is the bigger of the 3 muscle cars. So let's hop into the back seat and see if it's actually usable for adults. Now to get back here, there is a little lever here you can pull, and then that will make the seat kind of recline forward. Unfortunately, I thought it would, actually, yeah, it does. It makes the seat move forward, so it unlatches it, so you can kind of move it forward. Now, this is a relatively large opening, so getting back here is not as hateful as I remembered in like the Mustang or the Camaro, and I'm actually quite impressed. I have decent headroom back here. And I said earlier in the interior that a sunroof was not available. It actually is available, although you can't build a 2019 Challenger just yet, so at least not on their website as of this filming, so I'll have to double check to see if they still make a sunroof available. But without the sunroof, you can see there's plenty of headroom back here, decent legroom. There is a relatively large hump here because remember this is rear drive, but surprisingly, Dodge actually puts rear seat vents back here. The seats are also covered in the same Alcantara leather material, and even though it's hard touch plastic, it is relatively useful for somebody who is 5'7" back here. Now underneath the Challenger's hood, let me first talk about the actual scoops. If you guys remember, the Redeye had that dual snorkel, or the Hellcat has it as well. That adds like 10 horsepower, but without the supercharger, it doesn't really have the dual snorkel, just these functional hood vents here. But regardless, when you lift the hood, it's actually supported by struts, which is nice. And unlike the Hellcat, this is just a naturally aspirated V8. It's the 392 cubic inch, so it's a 6.4 liter pushrod Hemi V8 with cylinder deactivation. Now the numbers are actually still pretty good. This is more powerful than what you get in the latest Mustang and the latest Camaro, 485 horsepower and 475 foot-pounds of torque. Now Dodge actually offers this combination either as 6-speed manual, which I did have a chance to drive at the media drive. I loved it. I just didn't have very much time to film it. This one unfortunately has the $1,600 option for the 8-speed automatic, and honestly it's a really good automatic transmission. We'll go into the test drive later on. Now fuel economy, in case you guys care, the manual is actually hit with a $1,000 gas guzzler tax because it's rated at 14 in the city, 23 on the highway. This one doesn't get the gas guzzler tax, so it may be a reason to choose it. It's rated at 15 in the city, 24 on the highway. Premium gas is required. And remember, the Challenger, she's a big girl. She weighs around 4,500 pounds. This vehicle is rear-wheel drive only. Dodge says it should get to 60 in around 4 seconds. Let's get out on the road and see how it all performs. So, setting off in the 2019 Dodge Challenger Scat Pack. Now, I've had a chance to really sample this car several times over the last few years. My first experience was like with probably like a rental back when I was in college with the 3.6 Pentastar. That's not really the one you want. The Scat Pack represents kind of like that perfect middle ground with this car. I mean, you've got the 6.4 with nearly 500 horsepower. As you guys saw from my review from the Hellcat and the Redeye, those cars can be a little overwhelming and scary. I mean, even though Dodge put fatter tires on those with the wide body, this model with the 305 20-inch wheels from the wide body really should make for, you know, a nice fun drive, because the last Scat Pack I drove had tires that were like 30 millimeters narrower, which basically caused the tires to spin around. So this car is still rear-wheel drive, but what makes the Challenger such a good alternative to the Mustang and the Camaro is the fact that this car is much larger. It has a relatively controlled ride, and it also provides way more interior space. If you guys don't fit into a Mustang or a Camaro very well, this represents a nice, alternative to that because it's such a big car. Unfortunately, with this big, exterior size also means this car weighs a lot more. It just feels like a fat pig going down the road, but that's okay. If you guys like that traditional muscle car feel, this car definitely will deliver that for you. Now, the Challenger does come with launch control. Now, I'm going to try the launch control out. Let's just see how it actually works. When you just push it, you just kind of push the launch control here. It says to launch vehicle must be on level ground. So we're going to move up forward a little bit here just to put the vehicle onto level ground. I'm not going to go too quickly here. I just want to see how it works. Now, it says to launch, press brake and quickly apply full throttle. Now, I actually set the launch control to only launch at 2,000 RPM. You can adjust that to launch a little bit higher at around like 3,500 RPM if you'd like. Unfortunately, this car will still spin out its rear tires, so I'm trying to get the best launch possible with this thing. But the new 305 tires definitely make a difference. And this car, surprisingly, is, it handles really well considering how big it is. These wider tires really make the Challenger stick a little bit more. And the steering in the Challenger also surprisingly has a good amount of feedback. I mean, even though she's a big fat pig, she can really hustle or put your foot down here and it makes a really nice noise. Now, surprisingly, I mean, with almost 500 horsepower, you think this would be plenty of power, but since I've driven the Hellcat Redeye, I am noticing that this thing doesn't quite pull as hard. I mean, it's not like it's struggling with the weight, but there's another Challenger that has like another almost, 300 plus ponies more than this one. But this one is a little bit more manageable for those of you who aren't crazy like you are, when you get the Hellcat Redeye. That car is just so bonkersly ridiculous. Dodge should have put all-wheel drive on something like that with almost 800 horsepower. But regardless, just driving the Scat Pack around, it actually makes for a really nice, comfortable drive. The back end definitely will step out, but surprisingly, it's kind of like in a more controllable way. It doesn't scare me too much, but the wider tires definitely help it provide a little bit more grip versus the skinnier non-wide body models. Listen to the way that thing sounds when it shifts. Oh, my God, I could never get tired of that noise. That is such a great noise and really such a balanced car. For like the amount of power, for the way it puts down the power with this with the new wide body and the stickier tires, I'm impressed. This Scat Pack is much more impressive versus the last model. It's definitely worth the $6,000 to add the wide body with the stickier tires. I just would probably go for the 6-speed manual. The 8-speed auto is really good. It provides really quick shifts. It has the launch control feature, which I drove the manual when I was at the media drive for this car 2 months ago. I really liked the manual. I was actually kind of disappointed that Dodge didn't leave me the manual version, but most people tend to choose an automatic anyways, but it just makes this car much more special with the manual. Now you can see going around this corner, the Challenger is able to handle stuff like that. It's just the problem is when you're on a narrow back road like this, she feels big and she takes up all the road. So you kind of find yourself like, maybe I should slow down because I'm not sure if I can get around this corner with this car passing me, or do I have enough road? But really the steering has good feedback. It makes a really good noise. And the visibility in here is not the best. I mean, you have to deal with this super long hood and these puny, pathetic little side mirrors. But thankfully, this car has blind spot monitoring with your cross-driver alert. That's the only safety tech it has. My tester is missing all the other stuff that gives you like the full driver assistance with the adaptive cruise, the automatic braking. But I'm actually really surprised. This car is getting ready to be replaced, but oh, listen to that when it shifts. I could never get tired of that. Gotta love a big, naturally aspirated, large displacement V8. That's what the 392 stands for. It's a 6.4 liter V8, and it constantly reminds you of that when you're driving this thing. Oh my God. This car surprised me. I didn't expect it to put that big of a smile on my face, but it did. it just kind of encourages you to drive like a jerk. It encourages you to hoon on it, to listen to that V8 rumble and just kind of piss off, wake up all your neighbors. That's the beauty about the Challenger. But let's talk about the fuel economy, because it is pretty atrocious, as I said earlier. In my week's worth of testing, I've only been averaging around 13 miles to the gallon in mostly city driving. On the highway, it got around 18 miles to the gallon, which isn't too hateful, but remember, this thing weighs over 4,500 pounds. It's not very aerodynamic. So the fuel economy is not great. It does have cylinder deactivation, which if you guys, allow half the engines to shut off, half the cylinder to shut off, you could theoretically get almost 20 miles to the gallon in this thing. But who wants to do that in your muscle car? I mean, honestly, who would want to do that? But overall, I would like to see Dodge reduce the weight of this thing significantly. Do something to make it more, or handle better. But then some of you might be complaining, no, this is the last muscle car. You don't want Dodge to do that, and I understand that. But personally, out of the 3 muscle cars, I see the appeal of this, but it just feels a little too big, a little too heavy for me, but it doesn't mean it's not any less fun than the rest of its competitors. So coming back to the first question I asked at the introduction of this video, is the Scat Pack wide body the perfect amount of power, the Goldilocks of the lineup within the Challenger trim structure? Well, as you guys saw from the video, unlike the Hellcat Redeye, the 485 horsepower V8 doesn't really overwhelm the rear tires like the Redeye did, where it can really scare you whenever you put your foot down. This has the right amount of wheel spin to still be fun and comical, but not literally make you crap yourself when you really start to put the hammer down on this vehicle. But while that said, let's talk about a couple of things with the options on this vehicle. As I said before, the wide body package adds about $6,000. It has the 20-inch wheels, the larger fender flares, the red brake calipers and the Brembo brakes. Those are $500 extra to paint them red, which honestly I'd probably do. This combination in indigo blue is seriously just one beautiful looking combination. The blue is definitely one of my favorite features of this car. Now, speaking of which, the rest of the lineup for 2019, what does the Challenger actually start with for the base SXT? Well, that vehicle starts at around $27,300. Add $1,300 for destination. The Scat Pack version to get the 485 horsepower V8 starts at a relative bargain, $38,995. That is considerably a lot of bang for your buck, looking at the fact that this has nearly 500 horsepower. Now, my tester has pretty much a good amount of options on it, from $1,200 for the premium interior upgrade package, to $6,000 for the wide body kit, to $500 for the brake calipers, to the upgraded Alpine sound system, to the blind spot monitoring. This one stickers for a little bit more of a pricier $52,600. I will argue, however, that fully loaded Mustang GTs or Camaro SSs will also cost about the same amount of money. And this one also is a little bit more easy to drive on a daily basis, has more interior space, more trunk space. But if you are looking for something that's a little bit more nimble, this is definitely the fat choice for that segment. But I am looking forward to seeing what Dodge does to the Challenger for the 2020 model year. There's rumors that they're going to shrink this car, put it on a new platform, give it a significant weight reduction. So if you guys are looking for the last of the actual muscle cars, make sure you pick one of these up while you can. But I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2019 Dodge Challenger Scat Pack wide body. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.